Okay, that last video, I went from binary to decimal. This time around, let's go the other way, go from decimal into machine language, into binary. And to do this, and there's another little video you can click on in the PowerPoint slide that describes this in more depth. But what we're going to do is divide our number by 2. So if our decimal number is 29, we divide it by 2, and you'll notice 29 is an odd number, so it's going to have a remainder. If it has a remainder, or if it's an odd number, then we're going to put a 1 over here. If it ends up being an even number, then we're going to go with a 0. So we just keep dividing that number by 2, and each time we divide it by 2, we're going to put a 1 if it was odd, and a 0 if it was even. So let's go ahead, maybe let's grab this 217 again. We'll start with the same number that we had before and see if we can come up with a way to divide it by 2, and then we don't want a 0.5 coming out of it. We want zeros and ones coming off of it. So we're going to have to use an integer here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just copy this in here. So our decimal number was 217, and what we want to get out of that in binary is this 11011001. So always start with a scenario that you can test, but then have your program set up that I can maybe put in some different decimal numbers and get some different binaries out. And again, I'll do this video for 8 bits. See if you can set something up for 16 bits. So again, we'll start with 876. We'll do 8 bits over here. And I'll go ahead and resize these columns to be just a little bit smaller. And what we want to do is take this number and divide it in half, and then take that number and divide it in half again. Let me set my number type on here to show a few more significant figures. Okay, so we're having a trouble here in that we don't want a remainder of 0.5 or 0.25. We want that to show up as ones and zeros. So how could we do that? What if we turn this into an integer? Okay, so instead of 108, if I call this an integer, then I won't have that 0.5 on there. So see the difference between just dividing it in half and calling it an integer. Okay, so there's a little bit of a difference here, and I want a 1 out of here. So here's another equation that I could add. Maybe I have this divided by 2 minus the integer version of it. What would that give us? That would give us just the remainder, but I don't want just the remainder. I want a 1 or a 0. And it's always going to be either even or odd. So if it turns out to be 0.5, we can just multiply that by 2, right? And then we have a 1. And let's pop this back down so we just have a 1. Okay, so there's our first binary number. There's our first one. We have a 1 on the right-hand side. And now we want not 108.5, but we want just 108. So I guess we should put integer in front of this thing too. Okay, so the next go around, we're going to say equals this divided by 2. And we better keep that pattern going. So I'm going to add integer onto that. And we'll keep this pattern going too, only now we're not going off of that original number. We are coming off of the 54. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that in here, but we're going to change around what we're doing this from. So we're going to come over here to the next number down. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and change the significant figures on this too. So 1, 0, we have the left two numbers. Let's cross your fingers, see if this works. Okay, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1. Yay! So it matches our check. One more step. So right now I have all of these in separate cells, and I would like to put the final answer into just one cell, right? So what I'm going to use is my concat function. And what this does is it'll take stuff from a bunch of different cells and put it into just one cell. This is nice when you have lists of information. Maybe you have a list of emails and you want to put them all in some kind of a copy paste format that you can just copy it all into a to field or something. So that concat function will take everything from all of those cells and put it together. Okay, so there we go. Decimal to binary. And if we have some other number, let's say 100 or something. And there we go. We've got it updating. Woohoo! Okay, so try this out. See if you can do something for 16 bits on this one.